There comes a moment in life when you realize that not every battle is worth fighting and not every opinion needs to be challenged. It's a shift in awareness where you no longer feel the need to prove yourself, especially to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. That's when you begin to truly value your peace. When you understand this, everything changes. Being right often comes with a cost. Your energy, your time, your emotional balance. You might win the argument, but lose your calm. You might convince someone of your point, but in the process, you've stirred up frustration, resentment, or anxiety that lingers long after the conversation is over. That's when you realize the win wasn't really a win. It was an ego boost in exchange for inner stability. And the more you grow, the more you begin to ask yourself, was it even worth it? Peace isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't need validation. It's quiet, it's stable, and it's intentional. When you start choosing peace over proving your point, you reclaim your power. You realize that silence is sometimes the strongest response. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing that your energy is too valuable to be spent on chaos, drama, or emotional ping-pong matches with people who thrive on conflict. Choosing peace doesn't mean you allow disrespect. It doesn't mean you avoid confrontation or let people walk over you. It simply means you choose your battles wisely. You become selective with what you respond to, what you internalize, and what you allow to disrupt your emotional world. You can stand firm in your truth without needing to defend it constantly. You can acknowledge someone's opinion without making it your truth. That's maturity. That's strength. There is a certain freedom that comes when you stop needing others to see things your way. You start to understand that people only see things from their level of perception, not necessarily from a place of truth or fairness. Some people aren't ready to hear your side. Some people are more committed to being right themselves than actually understanding you. And you don't need to exhaust yourself trying to change that. Once you release the urge to be right, you make room for something far more valuable: clarity, emotional intelligence, and personal power. Your peace becomes a filter. Before you react, you ask, is this worth my peace? Will this matter in 5 days, 5 weeks, or 5 years? If not, let it go. Not out of indifference, but out of self-respect. You start to realize that the most powerful person in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who can stay calm, grounded, and in control of themselves, no matter what chaos is happening around them. You'll notice that the more you protect your peace, the more magnetic you become. People are drawn to calm, to confidence, to that quiet inner strength that says, I don't need to fight. I already know who I am. That energy is rare, and it commands a different kind of respect. You stop needing to win arguments because you're already winning in life. You're not easily triggered. You're not seeking external approval. You're simply living in alignment with your values, and peace is one of them. At the end of the day, peace is not something you find, it's something you create. It's a decision you make over and over in every situation where your ego says react and your higher self whispers let it go. Once you start choosing peace consistently, you will never be the same. You'll feel the shift and you'll never want to go back. One of the most life-altering lessons you will ever learn is that people treat you based on what you allow, what you reinforce, and what you tolerate. It's not just about how good you are to others or how much you care. It's about the standards you set and the boundaries you enforce. And once you truly understand this, you stop blaming people for how they show up in your life. You start taking ownership of what you've been accepting. A lot of people go through life frustrated because they feel underappreciated, disrespected, or taken for granted. But the uncomfortable truth is this: people can only do what you let them get away with. If someone continues to ignore your boundaries, it's likely because they've learned that you won't actually enforce them. If someone speaks to you in a disrespectful tone or only reaches out when they need something, it's because, consciously or not, you've taught them that behavior is okay. You might not have said it out loud, but through your actions or lack of action, you've given them permission. This isn't about blame, it's about self-awareness and empowerment, because when you accept that you teach people how to treat you, you also realize that you have the power to change it. You can reset the tone of your relationships, you can redefine what you allow in your space, you can say enough and mean it. Setting standards isn't about being harsh or controlling, it's about knowing your worth and refusing to settle for anything that conflicts with it. It's about being clear with your expectations and consistent with your actions. You don't have to demand respect loudly. You can command it silently by simply not participating in anything that contradicts your value. Your energy is sacred. Your time is valuable, and not everyone deserves access to you. When you start showing up with this mindset, you'll notice a shift. The people who genuinely respect and value you will rise to meet your standard. The ones who are only around for convenience or control will start to fall away. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Some people were only ever in your life because you didn't yet know how to say no. But growth requires clarity. It requires you to stop shrinking to make others comfortable and start expanding to honor your own evolution. Teaching people how to treat you also means modeling how you treat yourself. If you constantly second guess yourself, overextend yourself, or talk down to yourself, don't be surprised when others mirror that energy. Self-respect sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. If you want better, you have to be better to yourself first. Speak kindly to yourself. Keep the promises you make to yourself. Prioritize your needs. That's how you train people to meet you with that same energy. It's also important to understand that enforcing boundaries won't always feel good in the moment. You may feel guilty, you may fear rejection or confrontation, but that discomfort is temporary, the price of transformation. And every time you choose your self-respect over someone else's approval, you strengthen your foundation. You send a message to the world that says, I will not settle. I will not be mishandled. I know who I am. Some people might not like the new version of you, the version that doesn't tolerate disrespect, that doesn't over-explain, that doesn't chase, beg, or entertain low standards. But the right people, the aligned people, will respect it. They'll see your value because you see it first, and that's the beauty of this lesson. Once you teach people how to treat you by example, you attract people who already understand your worth or who are willing to rise up and meet it. In the end, people can't give you what you won't give yourself. If you want consistency, be consistent. Rejection is one of those experiences that hits deep, whether it's being turned down for a job, left out of a group, ghosted by someone you cared about, or simply not being chosen for something you gave your all to. It stings, it bruises the ego and shakes your confidence. But here's the truth that only hits once you've grown. Rejection is not the end, it's redirection. And often, it's the greatest favor life could have done for you. At the moment, rejection feels like failure. It feels like loss. But if you zoom out, if you step back and look at the bigger picture, you start to see that what felt like a door slamming in your face was actually life guiding you away from something not meant for your path. You weren't being punished, you were being protected. Protected from staying stuck in situations that would have stunted your growth, protected from investing in relationships that weren't aligned with your purpose, protected from settling when life had something greater in store for you. We often chase what we think we want without fully knowing if it's good for us. That relationship that didn't work out, it might have come with emotional chaos you weren't prepared for. That job you didn't get, maybe it would have burned you out and kept you from discovering your true calling. That opportunity that slipped through your fingers, it may have only offered short-term gain and long-term disappointment. Rejection pulls you back so you can see more clearly. It's life's way of saying, not this, but something better. But in order to see rejection as redirection, you have to let go of attachment. Attachment to how things should have gone, attachment to people who were never meant to stay, attachment to timelines that no longer serve you. That's the hard part because we like control. We like knowing what's next. We like certainty. But life doesn't operate on comfort. It operates on alignment. And alignment often requires disruption. The redirection doesn't always come with a sign that says, here's why this didn't work out. Sometimes it's silence, sometimes it's confusion, sometimes you won't understand why something didn't happen until months or even years later when you look back and realize that what once felt like a loss was actually a massive win in disguise. That's why faith in the process is so crucial. Not blind faith, but grounded trust in yourself and the journey you're on. And let's be honest, if everything you wanted had worked out the way you planned, you wouldn't be the person you are now. The most powerful version of you was shaped not in moments of ease, but in moments of rejection. That heartbreak taught you how to love yourself deeper. That no pushed you to find a better path. That closed door taught you how to knock harder, dream bigger, and move smarter. Rejection builds resilience. It forces you to confront your worth and decide whether you'll fold or rise. And every time you rise, you become stronger, clearer, more unstoppable. The key is not to internalize rejection as a reflection of your value. Just because something or someone didn't choose you doesn't mean you're not enough. It simply means they weren't aligned with your evolution. And once you stop seeing rejection as a personal failure and start seeing it as divine redirection, you stop chasing what's not meant for you. You start attracting what is. That's the shift. That's the freedom. You stop begging for access to spaces that don't recognize your value. You stop mourning the loss of what was never meant to last. You start moving like someone who knows that anything that leaves your life is creating space for something better. You start welcoming no as a form of clarity, not cruelty. Because every time you're rejected, you're being pointed somewhere new, somewhere you were meant to grow, evolve, and expand. And when you learn to embrace that redirection instead of resisting it, your life transforms. You stop doubting your journey and start walking with purpose. You stop clinging to the past and start aligning with your future. Rejection isn't the end of your story. It's just a plot twist, a setup for a better chapter. And once you understand that you will never look at no the same way again, you'll say thank you for the redirection, because you'll know that something greater is always on the way. Your mindset is not just a random collection of thoughts. It's your life's operating system. It's the unseen force behind every choice you make, every risk you take, every goal you set, and every limitation you accept. Just like a computer can't run without its OS, your life doesn't function beyond the boundaries of your mindset. Everything you experience is filtered through what you believe to be true about yourself, others, and the world around you. If your mindset is outdated, negative, or rooted in fear, it doesn't matter how much talent you have or how many opportunities you come across, your reality will always reflect your internal programming. Most people don't even realize how much power their mindset holds. They focus on external changes, switching jobs, relocating, ending relationships, hoping for different outcomes, while carrying the same limiting beliefs from one chapter to the next. But you can't change your life if you don't change the way you think about life. You can't expect growth when your inner dialogue is still programmed for survival, fear, and scarcity. Mindset is everything. It's how you interpret failure. Do you see it as a sign to stop or a lesson to grow? It's how you handle setbacks. Do you collapse under pressure or rise with purpose? It's how you view success. Do you believe it's something you can achieve or something reserved for other people? These beliefs are not just passing thoughts. They're your compass. They guide your actions, your confidence, your energy, and your resilience. They are your oracle. And unlike other people in life, your oracle isn't just an idea. Here's the truth. Your reality is not just shaped by your circumstances. It's shaped by your interpretation of those circumstances. Two people can experience the same challenge, and one will crumble while the other will climb. The difference isn't luck or strength. It's mindset. The person with the growth mindset sees difficulty as data. They use failure as feedback. They understand that discomfort is part of development. They don't see rejection as a dead end. They see it as redirection. This mental flexibility is what separates those who evolve from those who stay stuck. Your mindset also influences how you treat yourself. Do you speak life into your goals, or do you constantly doubt your potential? Self-talk is a reflection of your inner programming. If you keep telling yourself you're not ready, not worthy, or not capable, you will create a life that matches that belief. On the flip side, when you start speaking from a place of belief, intention, and clarity, you begin to shift your entire energy. You start attracting different outcomes because you're operating from a different frequency. One of the most dangerous mindsets is the one rooted in victimhood, where everything is someone else's fault, where nothing ever works out, and where life is something that just happens to you. That mindset is disempowering. It keeps you passive. It makes you wait for change instead of becoming the change. But the moment you take responsibility, not blame, but responsibility, You take your power back. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I learn from this? Or how can I grow through this? That shift in perspective is where transformation begins. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about knowing that no matter what happens, you have the mindset to navigate it, grow from it, and come out stronger. That's real power. And it's available to you the moment you decide to update your operating system. Reprogramming your mindset doesn't happen overnight. It's a daily commitment. It's about becoming more aware of your thoughts and challenging the ones that no longer serve you. It's about replacing fear with faith, doubt with discipline, and hesitation with boldness. It's choosing to believe in possibility, even when your current circumstances suggest otherwise. Because mindset isn't just how you think, it's how you lead your life. Once you truly upgrade your mindset, everything changes. Your goals become clearer, your boundaries become stronger, your vision becomes bigger. You stop settling for average because your mind is now trained to aim higher, think deeper, and move with purpose. You no longer wait for permission. You give yourself the green light. And here's the most powerful part. Once your mindset shifts, your entire life starts to align with that shift. People notice. Opportunities come, confidence grows, challenges become stepping stones instead of stumbling blocks, because when you upgrade your mind, you upgrade your life. And once that happens, healing is not just about time passing, it's about transformation. And transformation rarely happens in the same environment that caused the wounds in the first place. You can't expect to grow in the same soil that poisoned you. You can't fully heal while still surrounded by the same energy, people, habits, and environments that contributed to your pain. At some point, you have to make the hard decision to step out of what's familiar and into what's necessary for your growth, even if it's uncomfortable. It's natural to want to stay in familiar spaces. Familiarity feels safe even when it's unhealthy. You might tell yourself things will get better or that you're stronger now and can handle it differently. But if the environment hasn't changed, the energy hasn't either. The triggers are still there, the emotional residue still lingers, and every time you try to rise, something pulls you back. It's like trying to breathe fresh air while living in a room full of smoke. At some point, you need to get out, not because you're weak, but because you deserve better. Healing requires space, mental space, emotional space, and sometimes physical space. Space to think clearly, space to rediscover who you are without the noise of expectations and past conditioning, space to feel your emotions without judgment. When you remain in the same environment that broke you, you're constantly reminded of your past, the same conversations, the same energy, the same dynamics. And over time, you stop healing and start coping. You start adapting to dysfunction instead of rising above it. This applies to relationships, jobs, family systems, social circles, any place where your spirit was dimmed or your value was questioned. Sometimes you outgrow people and places simply because you've chosen to evolve. And that's not a betrayal, that's alignment. It's not about cutting people off out of bitterness, it's about releasing what's blocking your growth. It's about understanding that healing is sacred and it requires you to protect your peace at all costs. You can't keep returning to the environment that broke you and expect a different result just because you've changed. Growth needs nourishment. It needs positivity, support, and forward movement. If your environment only reminds you of your pain, your mistakes, or your past identity, it's not a healing space. It's a holding cell, and staying there out of guilt, obligation, or fear of change will only delay your transformation. Healing also requires honesty. You have to be brutally honest with yourself about what and who is no longer aligned with your future. Who drains you? What spaces make you shrink? What environments do you have to mentally prepare yourself just to enter? Pay attention to how your body feels around certain people or places. Your nervous system often speaks before your mind can even process it. That discomfort is not random. It's a signal. And yes, walking away from familiar environments can be lonely at first, but loneliness is not the same as being lost. In fact, solitude is often the gateway to clarity. It's where you learn to hear your own voice again. It's where you learn to validate your own needs without external approval. It's where you stop waiting for someone else to save you and start realizing you've always had the power to heal. You just needed the right space to do it. When you finally create that space, when you surround yourself with people who pour into you, environments that inspire you, and habits that align with your highest self, your healing accelerates. You begin to feel lighter. You begin to remember your worth. You begin to make decisions from a place of strength, not survival. And slowly, the version of you that was once broken begins to rise, not just restored, but reborn. So if you're trying to heal, but nothing seems to be changing, take a step back and look around. Ask yourself, is my environment helping me grow or keeping me stuck? Is it nurturing my evolution or pulling me back into patterns I've outgrown? The truth is, healing requires you to choose yourself, even when it means walking away from what once felt like home. Because healing isn't passive, it's intentional. And it often starts with a bold, uncomfortable decision to remove yourself from what broke you so you can finally build a life that reflects who you truly are. And once you do that, you'll never go back. You'll never shrink again to fit places that weren't designed for your healing. You'll know your peace is non-negotiable and your growth is unstoppable. There comes a moment in your journey where you realize that the more you chase, the more things seem to run from you. Whether it's love, success, approval, or peace, when you're constantly in pursuit, constantly gripping tightly, constantly proving your worth, the very things you desire remain just out of reach. But when you let go, when you stop chasing and start allowing, everything begins to shift. The energy changes, the pressure lifts, the right things start to show up. Not because you begged, forced, or fought for them, but because you finally created the space for them to arrive. Chasing is often rooted in lack. It comes from a belief that you don't already have what you need or that you're not already enough as you are. It's driven by scarcity, fear, and a need to control outcomes. You chase love because you fear being alone. You chase success because you don't feel worthy without achievements. You chase validation because you haven't fully validated yourself. And when you're operating from this energy, what you attract mirrors it. More instability, more imbalance, more situations that leave you feeling like you're never quite there. But the truth is, what's meant for you isn't something you have to beg for. It's not something you have to wear yourself out trying to prove you deserve. What's aligned with your highest good will find its way to you when you stop moving from desperation and start living from intention. When you stop trying to force things and start flowing with life. When you stop gripping so tightly and start trusting the process. But this doesn't mean you stop putting in effort or stop caring. It means you shift your focus. You stop running toward things that aren't running toward you. You stop pouring into people who don't pour back. You stop knocking on closed doors trying to convince them to open. Instead, you start aligning your energy with what you actually want. You start becoming the version of yourself who naturally attracts the right opportunities, the right people, and the right experiences because you're no longer operating from lack. You're operating from overflow. When you stop chasing, you begin to embody trust. You start believing that what's meant for you won't miss you, and what misses you wasn't meant to stay. That belief becomes a magnet. It shifts your energy from grasping to receiving. You start focusing on yourself, on healing, growing, elevating, and in doing so, you become the source. You become the very thing you were chasing. You stop chasing love and start radiating it. You stop chasing worth and start embodying it. You stop chasing approval and start owning your truth. And then the magic happens. The people you used to beg to see your value now wish they hadn't taken you for granted. The opportunities you used to stretch yourself thin for start coming to you naturally. The things you used to fight so hard for now flow to you effortlessly, not because you stopped caring, but because you started choosing yourself. This shift is powerful because it reclaims your time, your energy, and your peace. It puts you back in control, not of the outcome, but of your internal world. And when your internal world is grounded, your external world starts to align. You begin to live in a state of abundance, knowing that the right things will never require you to lose yourself to have them. Letting go of the chase also means releasing your attachment to timing. We often want things on our schedule, in our way, with our conditions, but sometimes the delay is part of the design. Sometimes